Welcome back to the Vendador Table. This week we're going to be working on a stuffed caramel pasta that is featuring flavors of roasted butternut, an XO sauce, some turmeric pickled onions, and fennel. Let's get started. Next we're going to work on our butternut squash. So this is going to be twofold. It's going to be one going into our sauce and two going into our filling. So just going to take off the top and bottom here, and then I'm just going to peel it. So we'll cut this guy in half and just remove all the seeds, save all those for your vegetable stock. And then we're gonna roast both parts with the same flavor profile. So into our bowl, some good old olive oil. Make sure that we're really coating it, getting some salt in there, a little touch of paprika. Directly into our sheet tray, and then going into a hot oven at 400 degrees until it's cooked all the way through. Should take about 45 minutes. For the next part, we're gonna chop all of our vegetables for the XO sauce. I've got some shallot, I've got some ginger, and I've got some garlic. I'm not even gonna peel the ginger, it's all gonna get fried. So we're just gonna peel our shrimp before we put it in the grinder. These are Mexican shrimps. I think these are U1620s. Cool thing about this recipe is that you can really use any sort of kind of seafood that you have. Just gonna grind this directly into the pot. I've got my machine on a medium die. You can do small or large die. It doesn't matter, totally up to you. Okay, we've got our shrimp directly into the pot. I'm gonna start from cold. Now I'm going in with my bacon fat. You want enough in there to really be able to shallow fry this entire thing, so don't be shy. In case you guys didn't know, pork and shellfish are like a match made in heaven. Stay on top of it, use a little whisk, and just keep breaking that down. So now that it's up, I'm just gonna turn the heat down a little bit and basically just let it shallow fry really slowly until it gets dark and caramelized. Once we're at that point, we'll add in our garlic, our ginger, and our shallot to basically start frying in batches. And I can already feel it as I'm cooking this now that it's starting to build a fond at the bottom. That's good, you want that. And you'll deglaze that with a little bit of the wine vinegar. That'll really kind of help build that flavor profile more and more as it becomes a part of the sauce. So as this is going, I'm gonna start weighing out everything else that I need for it. So I've got my dark brown sugar, got regular granulated sugar, the secret spice that really kind of helps makes the color on this thing. So gochujang, Korean chili flake here. And of course, the handy dandy monosodium glutamate. So our shrimp is starting to brown. We're almost there. So that means I have to go on with my next batch of garlic, ginger, and scallion. Did I say scallion? It's shallot. Being that there's a lot more water in all of these little ingredients, they're gonna evaporate a lot faster. By the time that's done, the shrimp will also be done, and we'll have our base. Next, we'll get our soy sauce. Of course, we have our sesame oil, and then we'll have some chicken stock when we're ready. Those will be the base liquids. The acidic component is gonna come from some sherry vinegar. You can use Chinese vinegar, you can use rice wine vinegar, whatever you like. I really like sherry, so I am using sherry. All right, our shrimp is fried. Our veg is fried. It's time for us to deglaze. Now, I usually do this off of the heat, so if you're working on an induction, just turn it off. If you're on the heat, just take it off so it doesn't go crazy on you, and then let's add our wine. Beautiful. That means that deglaze is working. Make sure that we're scraping the bottom, just like that. We've got one homogeneous sauce. Beautiful. So now we can go in with our soy sauce and our sesame oil. We'll go in with our sugars, our MSG, and the gochujang. And then we'll add in our chicken stock as well. So now we'll bring this back up into a simmer. I'm gonna let it go for about 2.5 hours. A lot of this liquid that you see here at the top will have evaporated, and you'll have a lot more kind of a paste-like consistency So it's worth it. Take your time. Next, we'll work on our turmeric pickled onions using rice wine vinegar, a little bit of water, and some sugar. Also a little bit of turmeric and some mustard seeds. From here, I just want to cut out really perfect little rings, probably about a ½ inch thick. It's a lot of work. It's worth it. Put them directly into a deli, and then leave them here while we make our pickle liquid. So we're using a really simple ratio of 3:1. You can either do that by weight or you can do that by volume. So we're gonna go with 3 parts water. And then we'll keep our sugar separate. If you throw it in here, it's just not gonna melt. So we're gonna heat up our pan here. We're gonna throw in our mustard seeds, and then we're gonna throw in our turmeric as well. We just wanna toast this really quickly. This stuff burns really fast, guys, so do not walk away from this. But you can tell right away, I mean, it is really starting to pick up quickly here. You can smell that. I mean, it is just super pungent. So I'm gonna go in with our liquid first, and then our sugar. And we're gonna bring this up to a boil, really just until the sugar melts. And then we'll pour it directly over our onions. They're cut a little bit thick, so I'd rather have them cook a little bit just from the residual heat of this pickling liquid. If they're thinner, you might want to get this cold first and then just compress them in there. And then I've got a seafold here that I'm just gonna put over the onions just to make sure that they're submerged, making sure that they get the actual coloration that they need. Like I said, make sure that this sits for at least a day. So we'll start with our pasta dough for the caramelle. So I'm looking for just all egg yolks here. And then to this, I'll also be adding a little bit of olive oil. And I'll set my yolks and olive oil to the side. Move on to our double O flour. And I'll start weighing on my double O flour. To this, I'm gonna add some salt. And now I'm ready to build. Same way that you would with a bowl, just use the bottom of the deli. And then we'll go in with our egg yolks and our olive oil and just beating our eggs a little bit here. I'm just going around the sides, picking up a little bit of flour at a time until I make this almost kind of paste in the middle until I can start working it with my hands. I can start folding in some more of the flour with a dough card and almost kind of cutting into it. So now we got this like kind of shaggy crumble here. And I can start working it with my hands. It should feel malleable, but not too wet to where it's sticking to the cutting board. I'm just pushing with my hand all the way out from the center and then just keep rotating it clockwise. I'm just trying to build up the gluten here so it has a lot more structure, so that when we go to roll it out later, it doesn't fall apart on us. At the same time, you're working it so much that when you're done with this process, in about 6 to 7 minutes, you're gonna have to let it rest for a minimum of 1 hour. Usually I let it go overnight, just wrapped so it doesn't oxidize. So a good way to tell if you're at a nice point with your dough is by being able to poke in, and if it starts to bounce back all the way up through, then you're at a pretty decent point there. So just gonna let it rest at this point. Like I said, at least 1 hour or overnight. Okay, so for the next part, we're gonna go in with a little bit of butter so we can sweat our veg. Right into our butter pan. Then we'll bring our squash back into the picture. You can see it's really starting to roast really hard. That's why it was at 400. We'll go in with half of these and set the other half aside for the sauce. So while this has a lot of liquid still, I'm gonna take a little bit of yellow curry, place it directly in there. And then I've also got some black garlic. We'll add in our black garlic cloves. So now that this is caramelized, I'm gonna go in with a little bit of heavy cream. So we'll give this about 15 minutes and then we'll blend it. In the meantime, I'm gonna take the rest of this squash and add it to my other pot here. To this pot, we're gonna add the remaining of the cream, really tiny amount of saffron, pinch of turmeric, good amount of salt there, just a touch of soy sauce, and a pinch of the gochujara chili. And then we'll cover this with chicken stock and let it cook for about 5 minutes before we blend it. So our butternut squash sauce has been cooking for about 5 minutes at this point, so I'm just gonna transfer it directly to a blender. And we're just gonna pass it through the sieve, and then heat it back up for service. Now we'll go in with our roasted fennel and squash and black garlic mix. The next part that we're gonna add is a little bit of Ultratex's. So this is just a modified starch that will help us get the consistency that we want. So we'll take our mixture and pass it. You can see now it's very thick. So especially once it cools down, you will be able to pipe it into a ravioli, a caramello, any sort of kind of stuffed pasta. So this is now ready to get piped into our pasta. Ideally, you want to let this cool a little bit before you go in there so it gets really kind of solidify. So if you've got an ice bath, drop it directly in there, but you're ready to go. I'm just gonna roll this out enough for it to fit into our machine. I'm using the KitchenAid attachment. So we're starting off at 1. Then moving down to 2 and 3 and so forth. Once I get down to speed 4, I'm just gonna fold it over itself so that these edges right here end up being more squared off and I have more product to work with. So roll this into itself a little bit here and then start back at 1. We want this to be as thin as we can get it, just because you don't want to chew on a ton of pasta before you get to the actual filling. So I'm just gonna go ahead and cut this in half so I can work with it a little bit easier. What I'm looking for the caramelle is gonna be a rectangle shape so that I can stuff it right in the center and be able to roll it over itself. So I'm just gonna be going here in about 3 inches across. This is the roasted butternut squash that we made yesterday. I let it chill overnight and so it's gotten a lot firmer, which is exactly what you want. As it starts to melt from the heat when the pasta is cooking, it'll start to get back into a really kind of velvety texture, but for now this is exactly what we want to work with. So I'm just gonna put a dollop right here. From here we can just take the dough, fold it over itself, and just get this into a little bit of a cylinder, and then you can see that both of the sides of the dough touch. Once we're here, we can press really hard on both sides to make sure that the dough is secured. And then we're gonna go in with this kind of crinkle cut on each side of it. You can leave as much as you like. You can do really long pieces of the caramello like this. I like to be a little bit closer, so I'll keep that. Make sure to keep all of this pasta. Definitely great trim for you to eat. Then from there, you're gonna press with both of your fingers right here on each side of it to make a little bit of a dimple. The sides of it start to lift up right here and in the back, and this will help you grab it at the same time and fold over itself. And just like that, caramelle, which means basically candy in Italian, right? So little caramels. So that's exactly what they should be reminding you of and what they should be looking like. Okay, so these are the turmeric pickled onions that we made yesterday. They've been sitting for a whole day, and you can tell like the color on these is completely transformed. And I've also got some fennel fronds here because we incorporated fennel into the filling, so it just feels right to have it in there as well as a little bit of a garnish. And then this is our sauce that we saved from earlier. That's just gonna be staying warm until I'm ready to go for it. And then this is the XO sauce that you saw me make yesterday. Again, these are staying warm, being ready for while we're ready to plate. So our water is boiling. I'm just gonna go ahead and season it liberally to taste like the ocean. This is fresh pasta, guys, okay? So it's only gonna take 2 minutes, 3 minutes at the absolute most. Sometimes you wanna be able to finish your pasta in the actual sauce. In this application, I won't be doing that because I'm being very selective about how I plate, so I want this to be fully done before I drape any of the sauce over it. So it's been about 3 minutes now. Our pasta is all the way cooked. I'm just gonna be transferring it out onto our oiled sheet tray here. And then from there, we're ready to plate. So we'll go ahead and place our pasta right in the center. And then this next part here is pretty important. You wanna drape it over the pasta, okay? Don't just throw a bunch of sauce on there trying to fill up the bowl. So use a large spoon and then drape it over the pasta kind of one by one. There we go. And then we have our XO sauce. And then I'll take some of that oil to kind of make it split there. Couple of our turmeric pickled onions. and a few of the fennel fronds. And there you have it. So now we'll get to try our creation. First and foremost, this is a dish that I've been doing for several years now. Kind of been doing different renditions of it throughout the years, but I think this one is kind of my favorite at this point. This is an absolute 10 out of 10 dish. Let us know in the comments what you're thinking about these dishes as we're making them and what you want us to work on next. And please subscribe to see more.